Wine was done with her class when the late afternoon sun cast a warm glow over the college campus as she strode between the swaying trees. Just as she reached outside the main gate, someone called her name. His voice rang through the wind. Wine halted, having not been familiar with her classmates. She could not guess who. "It's me, here." She saw the lean, curly-haired guy named Vaughn, who was from her department. She recognized him. He was very friendly, almost to everyone. She smiled at him as he approached. "Hey Vaughn, what's up?" she replied, squinting against the breeze. "I'm throwing a party at my place, to get to know everyone," he said, catching his breath. "So I was wondering if you could come too, as all our friends will be there." Wine contemplated. It wasn't like Wine terribly wanted to go. She was not into parties, but even if she wanted to go, she could not. Of course, because she was a babysitter of a billionaire's daughter. She had duties to the man whose house she lived in and worked for. Her class fellows did not know that because she barely talked to anyone in college. "I appreciate it," she hesitated, the wind tussling her hair. "But I don't think I can make it." He stood in her way as he insisted. "Come on, it will be fun." Wine shook her head, a small smile playing on her lips. "I cannot, sorry." As they continued talking, a sudden gust caught Wine off guard, and she winced, her head instinctively shielding her eyes. Vaughn picked up on her discomfort. "What happened?" "Something in my eye," she replied, blinking rapidly. The wind had betrayed her, bringing an unwelcome visitor. It stung terribly. "Hold on, let me help," he offered, and she stepped closer, gently holding her head to steady her. "Look up," he instructed. Wine complied, feeling a strange mix of vulnerability and gratitude. Wine, with a gentle touch, blew a soft stream of air towards her eye. She blinked, and a tiny particle floated away. "There, got it," he announced triumphantly. She breathed. "Thanks, Vaughn," she said, her eye now relieved, but still slightly teary and her vision blurry. "No problem at all. And hey, think about the party. I wanted everyone to be there." He persisted, a friendly glint in his eyes. Wine smiled, appreciating his persistence. "I'll think about it, Vaughn. Have a great party." He nodded and drifted off. Wine turned to the road, and as she resumed her walk, leaves continued to dance around her. The flashback concluded and Wine confronted Jungkook. "That's what actually happened. You probably saw it from different side or angle and figured I was saying goodbye with a kiss or something. Not my fault, Mr. John. You got it all wrong." Her voice cracked. "Instead of assuming I kissed someone, you should have just asked me." Her heart ached, realizing she had no right to say that. He did not know her. He could only assume. She added while sobbing, "I don't want to be around you at this moment. I'm sorry." Choking on tears, she ran upstairs towards an empty room to bawl her eyes out, away from his gaze. She did not want to look at his face after explaining the truth. She did not have the courage to face him after his hurtful words. How could he say all that? She opened the door to a room where she could be alone, where no one, especially him, could witness her vulnerability. She did not want to see him, not right now. There used to be this invisible line between them. She really liked him, but he seemed distant. It was like they both knew what the other was thinking, but nobody said it out loud. So this line, like a wall, kept things separate, but now they were right in front of each other. He spoke about his feelings, putting everything out there. Suddenly there was no more maybes or ifs. It became crystal clear, no doubts or confusion, just a straightforward understanding of where they stood and what he actually thought of her. It hurt her badly. Lila's voice echoed in the hallway. "Wine, where are you?" Lila must have been looking for Wine. Wine sniffed, swiftly wiping tears away. Lila couldn't see her crying. Wine would not be able to answer her question. She needed to compose herself. "Are you there?" She knocked on her door, and with a deep breath, Wine approached and opened the door, forcing a smile. "I was just coming to you," she said, swallowing her angst. "What happened, Lily?" "I need your help with my homework." "Oh, I was going to cook something for us." Lila responded. "I'm not hungry, Wine." Wine said, "Okay, then let's do your homework first." Lila nodded, quickly holding Wine's extended hand, and they walked towards Lila's room. Wine tried her utmost to forget the kitchen incident, but the fresh wound was too soon to heal. She stayed in Lila's room till late. She even took Lila with her when she cooked dinner for her, or she could completely avoid Jungkook as she did not want to see him. Not seeing him anywhere, she was glad and assumed he was busy with work, praying it stayed that way. It was night time. Lila waited in her room for Ryan after dinner. As Ryan headed upstairs, she hurried to Lila's room. When her hand reached for the door, a veiny hand suddenly grabbed the knob. Startled, Ryan saw Jungkook standing there by her side. He locked the door, sealing it shut, and then said, "I suppose we need to talk." Ryan, feeling her heart race, withdrew her hand and took a step back. She tried to stay composed, not wanting to show any vulnerability. Jungkook was right in front of her, leaving her with no place to hide. Ryan did not wait for him to speak or let herself fall weak as she began. "Before you say anything, I have something to say." He stood tall, gaze fixed on her, but she stayed firm on her speech. "Since you haven't fired me yet, I'll take it as what you said earlier. It must have been because of Lila. I adore Lila too, and I want to be there for her. I'm grateful for the job, but I also understand how disappointing my work must have been. From now on, I'll be professional, Mr. John. You won't see the same mistake. I'll make sure I don't break things and act appropriately." She lowered her head, not only giving her word. Jungkook inched closer, invading her personal space, and grabbed her wrist. "Come with me," he ordered. Remembering his earlier harsh words, she resisted. With an unexpected strength, she pulled her hand free, surprising him. Stopping in his tracks, his expression showed he did not see that coming. "We can talk here, Mr. John. I'm listening, whatever you have to say." "I want to talk properly, not here," he insisted, edging even closer and grabbing her free wrist. "Come with me." "No, Mr. John," she snapped, standing her ground, his hand still holding her wrist. "I won't go with you to some private place at this hour. I don't want you thinking I'm a bad influence on Lila by being alone with a man." For a moment, he fell silent. She asserted, "Please let go of my hand. It's improper." Jungkook, with a hint of surprise, remarked, "Who knew you could talk like this? Am I seeing a mature side?" Was he still insulting her? Or maybe you had not seen enough. You assumed in your head that I was stupid and made your peace with that. You did not try to know beyond that. You just saw me as a child. His jaw ticked. "No, Ryan, I never saw you as a child. That would make me wrong here. I wish I could just tell you what I actually saw you as." His words carried intensity, momentarily shaking her composure. Yet she did not yield, unable to forget everything he had said. "I would rather not know, and I request you to please let go of my hand, because if we are talking, then we will talk here," she firmly responded. Jungkook remained resolute, stating, "You're coming with me regardless." This time his grip tightened as he moved her forward. She tried to free herself, but his hold was unyielding. "Let go of me, Mr. John," she pleaded, attempting once again, but her words seemed to have no influence on him. "Mr. John, please." Her frustration was apparent. She wanted to make him realize what he did was terrible. She was upset and disappointed regardless of whether she had the right to be. He did not listen until they were inside his room, his study, where he shut the door behind them. Wine trusted him, but she was mad for being heard. She stood still, not taking a seat, waiting for him to speak since he so desperately wanted to. Jungkook breathed a heavy sigh, and she briefly glanced at his handsome face in the dim light. "I'm sorry," he finally spoke, striking her emotions even more. "I'm sorry about my behavior earlier. I lost my mind because..." He paused, the expression on his face hinting at how much he was restraining himself. "Because I was jealous," he admitted. Wine did not react visibly, but she felt the weight of his words. The silence thickened before he continued. "I was jealous that you kissed another man. I knew it was wrong to feel that way, but I went insane thinking that." He paused again, and she lowered her gaze to avoid the intensity in his eyes. "I knew what you feel towards me, Ryan. When I saw what I saw, the truth that I misunderstood, I thought I was too cold with you. I thought that by pushing myself back, you'd move on, find someone else. I knew anyone would want you, then I'd regret it. I was insanely jealous, losing my mind. I could not even focus, and before the meeting started, I left. I was blank. I didn't even remember how I survived the drive home to you, to ask you everything. But as I was trying to ask, I realized, what on earth was I even doing?" He ran his hand through his hair, and Wine stood still, holding her breath. It felt so wrong because I should not have been feeling this way. Then I started saying all those things to you. But I swear, Ryan, I swear I meant none of it. I was saying all those things to convince myself. Like, yeah, I cannot stand her. I just tolerate her because of Lila. And I shouldn't be feeling this way, when in reality, it's the opposite. You're still here because I want you to be. Jungkook admitted, I don't even know if I'm guilty or not for everything I'm telling you right now, or even if that's the right word to use. I don't want to sound like a pervert because it's wrong, but it has not been much time since you joined our house and I already started feeling this strong liking for you, but I quickly realized it was wrong. Then the way you'd act a bit clumsy, I was falling for you again, but I decided to stay cold and distant with you to keep myself in check. Then as time went on, I thought I should fire you and keep you away from me, though it's true I did not do it because of Lila. She immediately liked you the first day, which is why I even gave you the job. But as time passed, as much as Lila wanted you to stay, I wanted you to stay too, only that my reasons were different. Ryan gazed up at him, their eyes locking briefly before he averted his gaze. It felt as if he considered his feelings for his daughter's babysitter wrong, forbidden, against the rules, and even unethical. Ryan, who had secretly loved him all this time, was surprised to discover that he felt the same way. Despite her inner chaos, she remained a stoic expression, concealing her vulnerability, her love for him. Jungkook spoke, I'm not asking for forgiveness, Ryan. You can see me as well. Call me one, I won't blame you. But every harsh word I said earlier was unintentional. I know you more than you think. I adore you. Whatever I am to you is an effort to restrain myself and adhere to the boundaries of our professional relationship. It is to suppress my feelings. I know I've hurt you and you have every right to be angry. If you want to curse, you can tell me. What can I do to make you feel less terrible about what I said to you earlier? Taking a deep breath, Wine was not sure now if she was mad about the things he said in the kitchen, but she was upset that he chose to suppress himself while she openly cherished and loved him. Her emotions were evident to him. Wine responded, Can you open the door for me and let me go? That would be enough. Summoning her courage, she expressed her desire to leave without revealing her internal feelings and emotions. The room fell silent again before Jungkook asked in a hushed tone, Are you sure? Don't you want to ask or say something? No, I just want to leave. Lila must be waiting for me, she replied, determined not to show weakness, mirroring the boundaries he had established. She could act cold too if he wanted. Jungkook nodded. Okay, his voice low. He turned to the door, adding, As you wish. As soon as the door opened, Wine stormed out without casting a glance at him, doubting if he would ever feel sadness for her. Vine felt a surge of emotions threatening to overflow, a tightness gripping her throat and chest as she opened the door to Lila's room and stepped inside. Despite the chaos within, she'd managed to hold herself together, a task made easier by the fact that Lila was peacefully asleep. Vine had initially planned to stay up late with Lila, but the events of the night had taken a toll on her. Now as she found herself alone with her thoughts, tears streamed down her face. Swiftly moving towards the couch beside Lila's bed, she rested her head on it while laying on the floor. Allowing herself to release the flood of emotion she had been holding back, she cried her heart out. She was shattered and astonished at the same time, knowing Jungkook's feelings, but she held herself back from reacting because it hurt her. She believed him, but she also believed what he said about the boundary between them. If that's how he wanted it, she would not fall weak. The next morning had arrived, and since it was Sunday, Wine and Lila were at home enjoying their time. Jungkook had some work, but was also at home. Despite being devastated inside since last night, Wine had decided to move on. It was the toughest thing she had to do. She needed this job because going back to her system meant facing a disaster she wanted to avoid. Whatever this situation was, no matter how hurtful, it seemed better than what awaited her there. Being with Lila made it a bit easier. Playing with her provided a distraction and lifted Wine's spirits. Lila chimed in, Wine, let's start, as she brought a blindfold to Wine, insisting they play a catching game. Wine accompanying Lila to the living room for their little game. Okay, I will count to 10, Wine said, trying the blindfold in front of her eyes. Lila silently hid somewhere. Announcing I'm coming, Wine carefully navigated the room with outstretched hands to avoid collisions. She giggled from her left, guiding Wine in that direction, then she giggled from her right. I'll get you, she declared, moving to the right a bit faster this time. Her hand touched something firm and hard, but she recognized it as a person. She grabbed his shoulders, finding the height difference as he was taller. Knowing it was him, Wine ran her hand along his jaw. Accidentally, her fingers touched his defined thick lips, freezing the moment her heart pounded, feeling too close to him. Suddenly, she felt his calloused finger on the back of her hand, sending chills down her spine. She drew back immediately, moving away from him. You could not catch me, you got daddy, she giggled. Wine removed her blindfold and faced him. A brief eye contact before looking away. She then went to Lila, leaving the encounter behind. Come, Lily, we'll play something else, she said, taking Lila's hand and leaving without a backward glance at Jungkook. It was a conscious decision to maintain professionalism, just how he decided for a more detached interaction. In the evening, from Lila's room's window, Wine observed Jungkook sitting by the pool with his laptop. An hour had passed and she found herself consistently watching him. The internal struggle intensified for her. Despite convincing herself that her distant approach was for professionalism and maintaining a cool demeanor, the true reason was apparent. She was upset with him, first for causing her pain, and secondly for suppressing their feelings, oscillating back and forth without considering the impact on both of them. The questions persisted in her mind. Was it truly that easy for him? Did he not feel sadness unlike her? Was she the only one grappling with misery in this situation? The uncertainty gnawed at her, fueling the emotional chaos she was desperately trying to conceal. Night descended, and after finishing their dinner, both Lila and Wine prepared for bedtime. Lila lay on her bed, eager for her bedtime story, while Wine, feeling melancholic, sat on the ground, with her chin resting on her elbows on the edge of Lila's bed. This story might be a little sad, Lily, she spoke in a low voice, her energy reflecting the somber mood. Your every story is the best, Wine, she replied, looking at Wine with excitement, awaiting the tale to unfold. Wine drew herself from the depth of agony to commence the story. There once was a lonely girl, she began, taking a deep breath, who had no one to stand by her side. No one genuinely cared about her. Even her own people considered her a burden and sought to rid themselves of her. She was sad, hopeless, and desired something to change her life, even if gradually. No matter how strong she was, the misery was weighing her down, and she could not fight alone any longer, reaching closer to the point where she wanted to give up to the terrible decisions others made for her. Wine paused, feeling warmth in her eyes as she reflected over her sad life. Then what happened to the lonely girl? She inquired, fully invested in the unfolding story. One day, she was given two options. Either she would be sent somewhere to work so they could profit off her, or the second option wasn't a good one, so she gave up to the first one, but it turned out to be a blessing in disguise, as once she reached there, she met a little princess. She continued. The moment the princess saw the lonely girl, she grew fond of her. The little princess wanted the lonely girl to stay with her, away from misery and bad people. Grateful and happy, the lonely girl adored the little princess, yet she found herself drawn to someone else in that house, someone she saw as a knight. He not only freed her from misery by letting her stay with the little princess, but also offered everything he could despite her lack of expertise. The lonely girl grew affectionate towards the knight and fell in love with him without realizing it. However, unlike the lonely girl, the knight remained cold and distant. No matter how much she tried to offer a smile, the knight never reciprocated. Still, the lonely girl never lost hope because the knight was the only man she'd ever loved. He was the only man she saw in a room full of others. Wine continued, recounting the painful confrontation. But one day, the knight confronted her and shattered all her dreams. He easily stated that these feelings were wrong, unknowingly breaking her heart. The lonely girl who never hid her feelings was told to suppress them. Maybe the night was cold and mature enough to say that, and the lonely girl was too sensitive. But she believed one thing: if you truly love someone, you don't think about the buts and ifs. She did not express any of this to the night. She left as he desired. Then she cried a lot, but Lila's sleepy voice interrupted mine, who was almost at the verge of breakdown. The lonely girl still had the little princess, right? Wine with tears in her eyes chuckled. Of course, she said, kissing her little princess on the head. You're right, lady. The lonely girl still had the little princess with her. She would be okay. Still, the night he was really so cold to the poor girl, Lila observed. Wine contemplated, and she could not disagree with that. She could not hold back the tears any longer as she pressed her head against the mattress, absorbing the salty evidence of her heartache. He was heartless, truly heartless, she mumbled, her voice cracking. The lonely girl always wondered, how could he let everything go so easily? How could he hurt her so many times? Did he even feel anything? Was he ever sad thinking about what he'd done to her? Her tears would not stop. He was truly so heartless, she concluded, her voice breaking. Cold, mean, and emotionless. She shut her eyes silently, attempting to release all the pent-up tears and find peace. Yet deep down she understood that no matter how much she cried, her eyes would not dry. As she opened her eyes, her heart pounded and a soft gas escaped her lips. Raising her head, she stared intently. Jungkook stood by the door, leaning on one side. Dressed in a white shirt with the top buttons undone and grey pants, he appeared restless and uncharacteristically disheveled, his usually styled hair slightly messy, hinting at fatigue. Why? Brushing aside her concern, she quickly rose. Fear gripped her. Did he hear everything? He seemed to have been standing there for a while, and her tears were on full display. She could not hold them back, and her misery was bare before him. Do you need anything, Mr. John? The crack in her voice betrayed her emotions, making it evident that he knew the reason behind her tears. He did not immediately respond, implying that he had overheard everything. Silently, he approached the bed where Lila lay asleep, enchanted by the story. Wine's eyes lowered as he passed, and when his gaze landed on Lila, he leaned in, placing a tender kiss on his slumbering daughter's forehead, revealing the affectionate father within him. His eyes then turned to Wine, who struggled to contain tears that were already streaming down. Have you ever thought he may not really be as heartless as you claim? Her gaze shot up, looking eyes with him, made clear he had heard everything, every emotion-loaded word, every sob, every voice crack, and every complaint. Closing the distance, he walked towards Wine, and once again she averted her eyes, tears falling to the ground.